Welcome to the Building Materials Sales and Marketing Podcast, presented by Mark Mitchell, a sales and marketing consultant who specializes in helping building materials companies overcome difficult sales problems. Mark is the author of the book Building Materials Channel Marketing and a frequent speaker at industry events.
Hi, this is Mark Mitchell from Wizard Strategy. And today's podcast goes out to my friend Rob Retzema. He's a regional sales manager at Simonton Windows and Doors. And Rob liked my recording about hardest building material sales, that he was waiting for part two. So I've been a little remiss in getting it done, but here comes part two of the hardest sales in building materials that I hope you all will benefit from. The first part, I think, is the willingness to go after the most challenging sale that you can find. If you don't challenge yourself by going after customers that are going to be really hard to sell, customers that are the biggest dream customer that the president of the company would call you and say, congratulations, you actually landed that. Customers that you probably, there's a good chance you're not going to succeed. That many salespeople today take the easy road, and because who does like rejection anyway? But if you are working and challenging yourself on a regular basis, you'll be surprised how more successful you are with the easier sales, because the toughest customers tend to be the ones that are the most successful. And so if you are going after a top, we'll say 20 builder, a leading general contractor, architect firm, whoever it is, you will sharpen your skills that when you go after a level of customer that's not that big, you will be a lot sharper in talking to them. And what made me start thinking about this is early in my career, I worked for an advertising agency that was focused on the building materials industry. So in addition to managing clients as an account person, I also was charged with trying to find new ones. And I would ask around the agency who they saw as the most difficult or challenging client that we would like to get. And when I asked them that, I asked it in two ways. First was, I asked, who was just plain mean, nasty individual that you had to convince in order to get their business, and you just don't want to call on them because it's just no fun? Tell me the name of that client. And the second one is, who are the dream clients that are either so large or so desirable that we can't imagine actually landing them? We'd love to, but we don't really see that we could actually have a chance. So I based my new business target list on these two criteria. I wasn't looking for the easiest sales. I was looking for the more challenging ones. That's because when a sale is too easy, the customer can just as easily be swayed to leave you to a competitor. I think you've probably all experienced where a sale just happened too easily, and a year later, it just as easily went away. So there's also that benefit, not only improving your skills, but in converting customers who are hard to convert. So once they're on board with you, it's going to be really hard to get for your competitor to take them away. So I found, when I invested the time and effort to go after this, those clients became our most loyal and long-standing clients. And the same thing can happen to you. I also did this because I wasn't afraid to upgrade my skills through trial and error. Many people want to study how to be a better salesperson and then apply that and expect that it will be successful, when the best way is to take what you learn, combine it with who you are as a person, and try things. So once again, don't be afraid to make some errors or failures. I see that in the building materials industry that part of the fault of this failure, lack of interest in going after large, difficult companies is the fault of the company's senior executives. They're demanding instant results and success. And many companies also have a culture that does not support failure. It does not support trial and error. So when you're stretching yourself to go after a more challenging sale, you're guaranteed to face failure as you learn and improve. So many companies will see that you didn't succeed rather than you tried and you've gotten better. They only look at you won or you lost. And so that can be a challenge, but I encourage you to keep moving forward despite that. The next challenge that I find is too many salespeople give up too soon. Often the minute a customer doesn't return their calls or agree to meet with them, they walk away. They don't allow themselves to dream big and go after the customers that they see being out of their league or just darn tough to get to, deal with, and convince. The first and most important thing a building material salesperson needs is the desire and drive to go after these tough customers. They need to humble themselves, get started, and understand that they will need lots of practice. The only way to practice is to start calling on these challenging customers and learning everything from those interactions that happens while you're doing it. The sales techniques that have worked for you in the past probably won't work when you're pursuing these customers. If you're just going after the easy people, the questions they asked are going to be fairly basic. They aren't going to ask you difficult, challenging questions. They aren't going to ask you questions that maybe you don't know the answer to, that you don't know. Can our company do this? Here's a change in the way we do business that this big customer either demands or would make the difference in whether they seriously consider you. So there's also that you don't have to have all of the answers. And the customer doesn't expect you to and probably worries that if you do have all the answers. He wants to see when you go back into the company, does the company have your back? Are they on board with seriously considering going after this challenging customer in which they may need to adapt some things the way they do business in order to land this customer? It's kind of like, do you get up every day and do you want to go hunt a rabbit or an elephant? And when you go after elephants, one, you don't come across an elephant every day. So you probably have to eat. So you'll probably get some rabbits when you see them run in front of you. But you don't lose sight of you're really going after the elephant. Back to the culture of your company, the leadership of a building material company needs to encourage and support the efforts of the few salespeople who are willing to put themselves out there and go after the type of customer that will really make a difference in your company. In every group of salespeople, there's a few stars, and the leadership of the company should encourage those stars, which will then take the next level of salespeople and bring them on. There's a friend of mine, Chuck Shin, who runs Builder Partnerships. And he's a very respected consultant and coach to hundreds of home builders. One of the things Chuck teaches these builders is how to be better negotiators so they can get what they want from building material salespeople like you. In our culture, there's an aversion to negotiating. Unless we're buying a car or something in a yard sale, we tend to accept the price and terms for most things we buy. Chuck teaches his builders to improve their negotiating skills by making it part of every transaction. When they check into a hotel, they negotiate a better room or a better rate. When they buy a plane ticket, they negotiate an upgrade or a better rate. When they go to a restaurant, they might even negotiate for a free dessert. The point I'm trying to make is that just like Chuck teaches his builders to be better negotiators through practice, you will become a better salesperson through practice. And the more difficult the situation, the better you will become. Here are the steps to take to land tough or really big customers. 1, pick 1 to 5 targets. No more than that, because you will have to know a lot about each target and make repeated efforts to land these customers. So pick some targets, no more than 5. I might even say ideally no more than 3. Secondly, put yourself through a refresher course in your product category. You should learn as much as you can about why your customers use the product that you sell. How do they view it? Does it help them be more successful, or is it simply a necessary evil? So, for example, if your target is a builder and you sell materials used in countertops, ask them to tell you about countertops and what do they say. You should read the last 12 months issues of trade magazines that talk about your type of products and your customers' businesses. Go online and look on Google to find what do you think a builder is typing into Google about countertops and see what comes up. Look for bloggers who write about either builders or countertops or kitchen design, and what do they have to say? Go shopping for your products online. Go into, for example, kitchen dealerships and see what new home salespeople say about your type of product. Talk to everyone. Back to my point there is like go to a model home, act like a customer that's interested in buying a home. When you go into the kitchen, ask if they don't volunteer something about why their countertops are so great. Ask them some questions. See what answers you get. Talk to everyone who touches or deals with your type of product. And when I say type of product, once again, I'm not talking about your company or brand. I'm talking about the product category in general. You should not be exploring what customers think of, for example, GAF roofing shingles, but learning what customers think about roofing shingles in general. Perhaps your product starts with a 1 or 2 step distributor. Maybe it involves a lumber dealer or an architect. There's certainly an installing contractor and perhaps a builder or architect. You want to talk to every one of these people. Now, you're doing this before you've made sales call number 1. Yeah, this is like spring training. You're getting yourself ready. Think of yourself as a detective or an anthropologist trying to discover things you did not know as you're putting this together. Next, you want to learn everything you can about your target customer's type of business. For example, if it's a home builder, a roofing contractor, a general contractor, or an architect, you want to learn everything you can about their type of business in general. So, for example, what is going on in the world of home building? What are the biggest challenges facing all home builders? When they go to the builder show, why do they go? What are they looking for? What's the difference between whether they make a profit or a loss when they build a home? What are their biggest headaches today? And that's if your target's a home builder, but do the same thing if it's an architect or a general contractor or a lumber dealer. All of those, you should know more about their business than your competition. So now you're ready, after you've done all this, to learn everything you can about your individual target customer. The first place, of course, to look at their website and read everything you can. Google their company's name and read everything you can with their name, especially any news articles. Review the LinkedIn profiles of the leadership of the company and the person that you have to sell, so that you really understand about their background and how they think. You can learn a tremendous amount about where they came from. If the CEO of the company used to be the chief financial officer, well, he's very financially driven and oriented. If he used to be in charge of sales, he's a very sales-oriented person. So where did they go to college? Where are they from? Who are their other connections? These are all things, just great background for you to understand before you make a call on them. The next step is to take a fresh look at your competitors with the goal of finding out, why does it make sense for customers to do business with them instead of you? Most of us go around and only see what's wrong with the competition. So you want to change that around and see what's right with the competition. So once again, study your competitor's website, do some online research, interview as many people as you can to learn what your competition is doing well and what their customers wish they could do differently or better. Don't just look at their weaknesses, look for their strengths. you'll uncover some things that you had not thought about. So even the most loyal customer that has been doing business with a company for years and can't imagine using another company, those customers, they have I wish this company would do this differently. I always think about it's I hope and I like to think that my wife loves me, but if any of you sat down with her, she could fill a legal pad with things that she wished I did differently. Every one of your prospective customers has that same list about the companies that they love, the ones they're doing business with today. And many times that's the way in the door. So the difference is that between you and the competition usually has very little to do with your product quality or pricing. It usually has to do with customer service, shipping, technical support, simply doing what you promise, lead times, accurate information, knowledge of sales reps. These are the things that really make a difference today, because you make it easier for the customer to do business. Like the customers will tell me today, Mark, my best suppliers, I don't have to worry about them because I have a number of other suppliers that I anticipate there's going to be problems. So I have to spend or waste a lot of time on that. You want to be one of those that they don't have to worry about or take any extra steps to deal with you. The sixth step is a final, and critical step in order to close the sale is to understand what are all the steps the customer has to go through in order to switch to you. Most salespeople assume it's as easy as switching from Colgate toothpaste to Crest. And for anybody in building materials, whether it's an architect, a builder, a dealer, a distributor, on and on, there are many steps involved. It is a hassle. There is risk. There is cost. You need to have a good understanding of what are all of those challenges or barriers to changing, because many times you'll make an effective presentation, the customer will acknowledge you actually have a better product or a better company to deal with. But let's say that he would say you're 10% better, maybe 15. And then he looks and says, how much effort is it going to take me to make this change? And then he looks at his, how much time he would have available to commit to that, which he has none. So that many times the challenge is identifying what are those steps and finding ways to make it easier for them to make the change. An example of this was a really creative way, I thought, was a salesperson made a presentation about their product line to a builder. And the builder liked their product, said, I'd really like to switch to you, but now's not the time. Come back in 90 days because one of the things we have to do is to change our computer system from the old company to you. And the woman that does the computer entry, she is booked up for 3 months. So come back and we'll see if we can squeeze you in then. So the salesperson literally had made a sale, but because of the backlog of in the computer department of the builder, it wasn't going to happen. The salesperson was creative and smart enough to say, how many hours does it take to make this change? And the builder said about 3 hours. He then asked the builder if he could pay the woman that did the computer entry to come in on a weekend or work late, if he could pay her to do that. And the builder walked down the hall and asked the woman, and she said she'd be glad to come in on Saturday and work for 3 hours. And the salesperson or salesperson's company, paid probably not a lot of money, maybe $100 for that to happen. So that understanding of what are all the barriers and hassles is really important. So I want you to think about, one, are you interested in this? Which I encourage you to be. That the second thing is that you target these companies that you would like to have, and whether the natural inclination is to go to the biggest companies, but sometimes it's also good just to go after a good-sized company who's just really hard to deal with, as long as they pay their bills, of course. And if you don't have a company that is not supportive of this effort, then I would do it anyway, just for your own career, I'll call it protection. If your company isn't smart enough to recognize the importance of have salespeople with this type of attitude of going after the challenger sale and not being afraid to fail as they're learning, there are a lot of companies out there that would really welcome you on their sales team, and perhaps even as the leader of their sales team. So I hope this part 2 of what I call, the hardest sale in building materials, which is more about, not as much about the customer as about you making it harder by going after more challenging customers to sell them on your products. So I hope you will take this and go after some really challenging people. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and what your experiences are. Until my next podcast, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this podcast from Mark Mitchell on building materials, sales, and marketing. We hope he gave you some fresh perspectives on how to grow your sales, and will listen to future episodes.